Today, we're embarking on an explorative journey into the cognitive processes that help us navigate the complex world around us. Specifically, we'll delve into the fascinating realms of response generalization and stimulus generalization. Response generalization occurs when a behavior that has been reinforced in one context is exhibited in variations that have not been explicitly taught, but serve the same function or purpose as the original behavior. It involves the learner producing new behaviors that are similar to the trained behavior in response to the same or similar stimuli. Cooper book defines the extent to which a learner emits untrained responses that are functionally equivalent to the trained target behavior. Let's look examples about response generalization. For greeting variations, trained behavior is: a child with autism is taught to say hello when someone enters the room. Generalized response is: the child starts using variations like hey, there, or good morning, although these specific forms of greeting were not explicitly taught. This shows response generalization because the child applies the concept of greeting to emit functionally equivalent but untrained responses. For requesting help, trained behavior is: a learner is taught to ask for help by saying, "Can you help me, please?" when they cannot open a jar. Generalized response would be: later, the learner uses the phrase, "I need assistance, please," when they can't find a book. The learner generalizes the request for help to different situations and phrases, indicating an understanding of the function behind asking for assistance. For emotion expression, trained behavior is: a child learns to express feeling sad by saying, "I'm sad," when they lose a game. Generalized response would be: the child later expresses feeling upset by saying, "I'm upset," or "I'm not happy," in situations where they experience disappointment, not just when losing a game. This demonstrates response generalization as the child applies the concept of expressing negative emotions in various functionally equivalent ways. Next, stimulus generalization defined when an antecedent stimulus has a history of evoking a response that has been reinforced in its presence. The same type of behavior tends to be evoked by stimuli that share similar physical properties with the controlling antecedent stimulus in Cooper book. Stimulus generalization occurs when a behavior that has been reinforced in the presence of a specific stimulus is also evoked by other stimuli that have not been associated with reinforcement but share similar characteristics with the original stimulus. Let's look some examples for stimulus generalization. Trained stimulus is: a learner is taught to identify the color red using a red apple. Generalized stimulus would be: the learner correctly identifies the color red on different objects like a red car, a red shirt, and a red ball. This illustrates stimulus generalization as the learner applies the concept of red across various objects that share the physical property of being red, despite variations in shape or context. For following instructions, trained stimulus is: a child is taught to clean up toys when a specific cleanup song is played. Generalized stimulus would be: the child starts cleaning up when different songs or verbal instructions to clean up are given. The child generalizes the behavior of cleaning up to different auditory cues that signify it's time to tidy up, showing that they understand the function of the cleanup cue beyond the specific trained song. For fear response, trained stimulus is: a learner develops a fear response to the sound of a dentist drill due to an unpleasant dental experience. Generalized stimulus would be: the learner shows signs of fear or anxiety when hearing similar high-pitched sounds, like a buzzing alarm or a kitchen blender. This is an example of stimulus generalization where the learner's fear response is triggered by stimuli that share similar auditory characteristics with the original fear-inducing stimulus, the dentist drill, despite the different contexts. Key difference between response and stimulus generalization. Response generalization focuses on the behavior itself. It occurs when a learner emits untrained responses that are functionally equivalent to the trained target behavior. Essentially, the learner demonstrates variations of the learned behavior in response to the same or similar stimuli. On the other hand, stimulus generalization focus on the stimulus. Definition is, when an antecedent stimulus has a history of evoking a response that has been reinforced in its presence. The same type of behavior tends to be evoked by stimuli that share similar physical properties with the controlling antecedent stimulus. This means the behavior remains relatively constant, but the stimuli prompting the behavior vary. Key aspect for response generalization. The variation in the behavior, while the stimulus remains constant or similar. The learner applies the learned principle across different behaviors that serve the same function. Example, a child learns to express hunger by saying, "I'm hungry." Later, the child uses variations like, "Can I have something to eat?" or "Is it lunchtime?" without being explicitly taught these specific phrases. The behavior expressing hunger varies in form but serves the same function. Key aspect for stimulus generalization. The consistency in the behavior in response to varied stimuli that share some similarity with the original stimulus. The learner's reaction is triggered by different, yet similar stimuli. Example, a dog is trained to sit when its owner says, "Sit." Later, the dog sits when a stranger uses the word sit, or even when hearing similar commands like, "Sit down," demonstrating the dog's response to similar sounding stimuli. In summary, response generalization is about the breadth of behaviors in response to a stimulus, showing different ways a learned behavior can manifest, while stimulus generalization is about the breadth of stimuli that can elicit a specific learned behavior, showing the adaptability of the behavior across different but related situations. Let's practice some mock exams. Mock exam 1. Jamie has been taught to write her name in cursive. Over time, she starts using cursive to write other words and sentences, even though she was only explicitly taught to write her name this way. What does this scenario best illustrate? 1. Stimulus generalization, because Jamie reacts to different writing tasks with the behavior of using cursive. 2. Response generalization, because Jamie applies the skill of writing in cursive to new, untrained words and sentences. 3. Reflexivity, because Jamie recognizes cursive writing as the same technique used for her name. 4. Transitivity, because Jamie understands that if cursive can be used for her name, it can be applied to other words. Correct answer is 2. Response generalization, because Jamie applies the skill of writing in cursive to new, untrained words and sentences. This is an example of response generalization, where Jamie extends a learned behavior, writing her name in cursive, to other similar behaviors. Writing other words in cursive that were not explicitly taught. Mock exam 2. After learning to sit when his owner says, "Sit," in the living room, Max, a dog, starts sitting on command in the kitchen park. And while on walks, without specific training in those environments. What concept is being demonstrated here? 1. Stimulus generalization, because Max responds to the sit command in various environments, not just the living room. 2. Response generalization, because Max applies sitting to different commands. 3. Reflexivity, because Max recognizes the sit command as similar across different locations. 4. Symmetry, because Max understands the relationship between the command and the action regardless of location. Correct answer is 1. Stimulus generalization, because Max responds to the sit command in various environments, not just the living room. Let me explain. This scenario illustrates stimulus generalization, where Max generalizes the learned behavior, sitting on command to new, similar stimuli. The sit command in different locations. Mock exam 3. A student learns to ask questions in history class to clarify confusion. Soon, the student starts asking clarifying questions in science, math, and English classes as well. What does this demonstrate? 1. Stimulus generalization, because the student reacts to different subjects with the behavior of asking questions. 2. Response generalization, because the student extends the behavior of asking clarifying questions to new subjects. 3. Reflexivity, as the student recognizes the value of questions across different contexts. 4. Transitivity, because the student sees the connection between clarification and understanding in all subjects. Correct answer is 2. Response generalization, because the student extends the behavior of asking clarifying questions to new subjects. Because the student is showing response generalization by applying a learned behavior, asking clarifying questions to new, functionally similar situation. Different academic subjects without being explicitly taught to do so. Mock exam 4. Leah was frightened by a loud firework noise on New Year's Eve. Subsequently, she begins to show signs of fear when hearing loud noises, such as balloons popping or a car backfiring. This scenario best illustrates which concept? 1. Stimulus generalization, as Leah's fear response to the fireworks noise extends to other loud noises. 2. Response generalization, because Leah applies her fear response to various situations. 3. Reflexivity, since Leah identifies all loud sounds as being similar to fireworks. 4. Symmetry, because Leah understands the relationship between loud sounds and fear. Correct answer is 1. Stimulus generalization, as Leah's fear response to the fireworks noise extends to other loud noises. Because Lee is demonstrating stimulus generalization, where the original fear response to fireworks generalizes to similar stimuli. Other loud noises without direct training or experience with each new stimulus. Mock exam 5. After being praised for sharing toys with a sibling, a child starts sharing snacks with friends at school. What concept does this scenario illustrate? 1. Stimulus generalization, because the child is sharing in different environments. 2. Response generalization, because the child applies the behavior of sharing to new items beyond toys. 3. Reflexivity, as the child recognizes the value of sharing across different contexts. 4. Symmetry, understanding that sharing can apply to both toys and snacks. Correct answer is 2. Response generalization, because the child applies the behavior of sharing to new items beyond toys. Because this exemplifies response generalization, where the child takes a behavior praised in one context, sharing toys, and applies it to another similar behavior, sharing snacks, without specific reinforcement for the latter. Exam 6. A child who is allergic to peanuts shows a cautious response to all nuts, even though only peanuts have been confirmed as harmful. What does this indicate? 1. Stimulus generalization, because the cautious response to peanuts is now shown towards all nuts. 2. Response generalization, as the child extends cautionary behavior to different foods. 3. Reflexivity, recognizing all nuts as potentially similar to peanuts in terms of allergy risk. 4. Symmetry, because the child sees the relationship between different nuts and the allergic reaction. Correct answer is 1. Stimulus generalization, because the cautious response to peanuts is now shown towards all nuts. Let me explain. This is an instance of stimulus generalization, where the child's cautious response, initially specific to peanuts, is generalized to similar stimuli. Other nuts due to perceived similarity, even in the absence of direct negative experiences with those stimuli. That's all today. I hope you understand better response generalization and stimulus generalization. If you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe channel. Have a good day. Thank you for watching.